Ladies and gentlemen, your government's coming for you, and they intend to do it by way of an international arrangement. Reuters writes, as it now stands under the carbon-capping Kyoto Protocol, rich countries shoulder most of the burden for cutting the emissions that spur global warming, while developing countries, including fast-growing economies, China and India, are not required to curb greenhouse pollution. Now, as you listen to me read this, I want you to keep something in mind. New York is colder than it's been in decades. The Earth is actually cooling as best as we can tell, but we're not 100% sure. So the science is really a joke. There is no real meeting of the minds. I've got a whole chapter in virostatism and liberty and tyranny that goes point by point by point by point that breaks this down. And yet we're going to change the whole world. Why? Because the globalists, the redistributionists, whatever you call them, the Marxists, they're on the move. And they're using the environment as the hammer to hammer us. Rich countries, notably the United States, have said this gives developing countries an unfair economic advantage. Oh, really? That's the prior administration said that. Not this one. The study suggests setting a uniform international cap on how much carbon dioxide each person could emit in order to limit global emissions. Since rich people, and they're going to keep using that phrase, rich people, to describe you. Because again, it's not rich people in the U.S., it's rich people as compared to, say, Zimbabwe. That's you. That's you. Some rich people emit more. They are the ones likely to reach or exceed this cap, whether they live in a rich country or a poor one. All right. For example, if world leaders agree to keep carbon emissions to in 2030 at the same level they are now, one person's emissions could exceed 11 tons of carbon each year. That means there'd be about 1 billion high emitters, quote unquote, in 2030 out of a projected world population of 8.1 billion. With international climate talks set to start this week in Italy, isn't it amazing how these reports come out? Among the countries that pollute the most, the authors hope policymakers will look at a strong link between rich people and how much carbon dioxide they emit. You thought it was a joke when I've said all these years that they want to control you personally? Yes, they'll control your carbon dioxide, what you exhale, and nationalize your health care. Then they've got you completely. I want to read one more point from this Reuters story. New climate strategy. Track the world's wealthiest. That's you and me. The world's wealthiest. Quote, you're distributing the task of doing something about emissions reductions based on the proportion of the population in the country that's actually doing the most damage, said Shobal Chakravarti. The hell is a Shobal Chakravarti? Of the Princeton Environment Institute, one of the study's authors. Rich people's lives tend to give off more greenhouse. Ladies and gentlemen, this country's under attack from within and without. It's under attack from within and without, and it's only possible because, let's be honest, the Democrat Party was taken over by the 1960s nutjobs, and Obama is president. So the sickest of all the sick policies are being unleashed on us, where they're going to experiment with us. I've read this before, but, people in the audience come and go. We have news stations and so forth. But this gets to the bottom of it. The envirostatists, that's what I call them. And liberty and tyranny. I wrote National Park Service ecologist David Graeber, writing in the Los Angeles Times in 1989, well articulated the perversity of their views. Here's what he wrote. And he's famous. Or was. He wrote, we contaminated the planet with atmospheric hydrocarbons and metals beginning in the Industrial Revolution. The atomic age wrote another indelible signature on the radioisotopes on every bit of the Earth's surface. DDT and its kin appear even in the Antarctic ice. I, for one, cannot wish upon either my children or the rest of the Earth's planet this monstrous or however unlikely, benign I'm trying to read what he wrote. Not interested in the utility of a particular species or free-flowing river or ecosystem to mankind. They have intrinsic value. More value to me than another human body or a billion of them. So if nature has intrinsic value, ladies and gentlemen, your existence is problematic. Human happiness, he writes, and certainly human fecundity, are not as important as a wild and healthy planet. I know social scientists who remind me that people are part of nature, but it isn't true. Somewhere along the line, at about 1 billion years ago, maybe half that, we quit the contract and became a cancer. We become a plague upon ourselves and upon the earth. It is cosmetically unlikely that the developed world will choose to end its orgy of fossil energy consumption, and the third world its suicidal consumption of landscape. Until such time as Homo sapiens should decide to rejoin nature, some of us can only hope for the right virus to come along. Liberty and tyranny. Well, that virus is man-made. It's called these phony scientists. It's called the international organizations out there. It's called these governments, these regimes. You know, when you prepare for a program like this, you really wade into an enormous amount of information. If you do it right, if you're serious about your audience and doing a good job, you not only read the current articles as they appear, from the moment the show ends to the moment it begins and throughout the program, but sometimes you'll do additional research. You'll look into history, economics, philosophy, so forth. I have to tell you, each day that goes by, I am more and more frustrated and stunned by what's going on. That's why it's so crucial that we stand up to these people and we defeat them. If they have their way, I want you to listen very carefully to me. If they have your way, your life as you know it will be destroyed. I'm not overstating it. Just listen to them. Listen to me reading what they say. Look at who their friends are. Look at who they kowtow to and pander to. Look at what they want to do to this nation, its sovereignty, its economy, its people. Why would a nation try to make itself poorer? Why would a nation surrender its ability to control its destination, its destiny, and surrender that to international organizations or other countries? Why would a nation faced with the rising expanse of nuclear weapons in rogue regimes cut its own defense budget and its own strategic defense initiative? Why would a nation encourage illegal aliens to come into its country to vote before the people have been assimilated? Why would a nation elect a president who talks down the nation, meaning talks down the very people who elected him, and who embraces genocidal dictators and the most awful regimes on the face of the earth? This is why we can't allow our frustration to overtake our ability to do something about this. This is why we have to keep our eye on the ball. You know damn well if a conservative were president, there'd be no talk about tracking people in this country to see how much carbon dioxide they use. No way. You know damn well that illegal aliens would not be welcome in this country.